There's nothing quite like setting off in your recently modified 4x4 with the freedom to explore remote roads where few others dare to go. But what happens when things go wrong? Experienced overlanders know all too well that a small problem can quickly become a serious setback. Breakdowns in remote areas can be expensive, difficult to recover from, and may leave travelers stranded far from help. In this episode, we'll give you some of our experiences we've had in the past 3 years in our Jimny and past experiences on other vehicles, the costs of recovery, repairs, and what we could have done to avoid the situations. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel for more videos. Off-grid travel or overlanding in our country's remote corners can be enjoyed in most capable vehicles. However, the further you go and the tougher the roads you choose, the more likely you are to need a different vehicle or costly upgrades to ensure that you and your fully kitted off-road rig get you to your destination and back safely. If you're traveling solo and camping alone in areas without cell phone reception, you might need a long-distance two-way radio or satellite phone to call for help in any emergency situation. If you're traveling in surrounding countries like Namibia, Botswana, Zambia and Zimbabwe, then the Tracks4Africa guidebook series contains loads of information about vehicle preparation, communication, road conditions and warnings such as flooding and thick sand and locked gates, and emergency and breakdown and recovery contact details. Here are some important things to consider before traveling. Carry your travel and vehicle registration documents with you along with your passports and visas. Make sure you have done adequate vehicle preparation for the road conditions you are going to drive in. Be sure to save your emergency and towing contact details in your phone. Carry basic recovery equipment and note the workshops and fuel stations in the regions you will be traveling. Send your travel itinerary to someone who could assist. If you're traveling totally off-grid, notify someone as you leave signal and check in again once you come back into signal. And be sure to have the right 4x4 overland insurance, such as cross-country insurance's ultimate motor policy. Links in the description below. Let's go back right to the beginning. In 2019, a close friend and I had taken a long road trip through the incredible Eastern Cape Highlands on the R396 via roads. I owned a 2008 Landcruiser Prado with a standard 4-litre V6 engine. Just after Nordia's Neck Pass, in a very remote section near Pitseng Pass, the Prado started jerking. A little bit of fuel starvation, it seems like it. We're not quite sure what the problem is, but we've been stuck on the side of the road now for about 2 hours. I had to use my mountain bike to cycle to the closest farmer, and now we're busy communicating via two-way radio to a farmer who's got a cell phone because we got no signal. And now we're communicating with the tow truck service in Matatiele, who might come and fetch us, but we're still trying to fix the fuel lines in the meantime. You know, we've tried just about everything. It seems that it was not switching across from one tank to the other. So we've now got massive air in the fuel lines, which is preventing us from getting it started. So it ran a few kilometers and then died, ran a few kilometers and then died. But now the system's full of air, so we're not quite sure how to clear it, and we're trying our best. Otherwise, flatbed truck to Matatiele and we'll get it sorted out at Toyota tomorrow. So let's break down the situation. The issue was fuel starvation, and we had no choice but to be flatbedded to Matatiele at a cost of 3,500 Rand. The faulty fuel pump was repaired at a cost of 2,500, costing me a total of 6,000 Rand. These kinds of breakdowns can almost not be predicted. It was a 2008 Prado, and the fuel pump had lasted 11 years. Fast forward to 2023 and our maiden voyage in the Jimny to Etosha National Park in Namibia. Let's take a look at our very first breakdown situation on our very first trip back in 2023 at Halali Camp inside Etosha National Park. So, on our final morning departure, the end of episode 2, in leaving Halali Camp this morning, my battery was completely dead. Now, last night we did a little bit of driving with the lights on, but literally only about 500 meters, and it could have been that. I think it's a faulty alternator. We've been push starting the car and it does run, but we tried to leave Halali Camp and drive towards Okakuyo in the hope that the battery would charge. But sadly it didn't. My electronics started going haywire and the entire vehicle started switching on and off, and it started jerking, and I thought, look, there's no ways we want to be caught in the middle of the park. It's 75 kilometers from Halali to Okakuyo, and what we don't want is to be stuck in the middle in the park where we can't get out of our vehicle and we can't really do anything. So we quickly turned around and drove back about 1.5 kilometers back into Halali, and we've been assisted by a young guy called Michiel at the garage petrol station here in Halali. We've determined it's the alternator because taking the red terminal off the battery while the engine is running, the vehicle just cuts out straight away. So off we went to Ujo to Weiman's garage for a full diagnosis. Once the battery was replaced, they told us that the alternator was actually fine. So basically what they've done is they run all the tests. The alternator is pushing out the correct amount of voltage, and you know, this is a tiny Jimny battery. The original Jimny battery was only about 35 amp hours, and with the amount of drain we're putting on it from charging cameras and running the power pack and running our fridge, it's just not, the battery just can't cope. From 12 days of driving every single day with the fridge running and charging various batteries and charging power packs and things, it's pretty much just killed this battery. So the battery was from 2019, which is an old battery. So we've now got a new battery, and they put in new terminals as well. It's a slightly bigger battery, it's 38 amp hours. So it is going to handle the fridge a lot better. But what we're going to do is rather run the fridge from our power pack, which will run it for half the day or more than half the day before we have to charge the power pack up again, rather than running it from the 12 volt, because these Jimny batteries are quite small. So this is where the option of having a dual battery system or running a portable power pack is definitely going to make a difference. Let's break down the situation and costs. So due to our dead battery, the flatbed was called from Ucha 197 kilometers away. The flatbed towing cost was 8,700 Namibian dollars, and the replacement battery 1,500 Namibian dollars, a total of 10,200 Namibian dollars. The cause of the dead battery was from overloading it with too many electronics, things like the 12-volt fridge, the aircon, and headlights and GPS all running simultaneously. For prevention, we now carry a voltmeter and a spare battery charger, one that we can use to charge our fridge battery as well. Another alternative would be to run a dual battery system. 3 years later, and we have still not yet installed a dual battery system, but we manage our power usage from the 12-volt socket much more efficiently. We only run our aircon and headlights simultaneously when we absolutely have to. Our fridge runs from the 12-volt, and all camera, drone battery, tablets and cell phone charging is done from our 600 watt-hour power bank, which also powers our Vodacom router, giving us Wi-Fi whenever there's signal. In addition, we run a 300 watt inverter, which we can use to charge the power bank if we need to. During the filming of Season 5 from Cape Town to the Kruger National Park, and after a brutal 2-day crossing of Baviaanskloof in the Eastern Cape, we had our sights firmly set on Hogsback. But as we were coming through the town of Alice, an issue arose. And of course, it was a Friday afternoon, and as we know, it's nearly impossible to get any mechanical support over weekends in South Africa. So our circumstances have changed now with our travel, because yesterday when I pumped up our tires in Alice, in the Eastern Cape, I noticed that there was a little bit of liquid dripping out near my back wheel, which I assumed was the brakes. So we went down, there was nothing really in Alice, and we went further back to Fort Beaufort and found a workshop there, and basically they took off my wheel, and we realized that it's not the little brake cylinder inside the drum, it's actually my side shaft seal that's leaking, which is unfortunately a lot worse. If it was just the brake drum cylinder, they would have been able to fix it. So that's thrown everything out, because it's Friday afternoon as well, and nothing can happen on a Friday afternoon. Today's Saturday, tomorrow is Sunday, so really nothing can happen until Monday. So we called around, and Suzuki King Williamstown said they might be able to do the job. They're not sure if they have the parts. And then we got hold of Suzuki East London, and they said yes, it's fine. We booked it in for 8 o'clock on Monday morning. So here we stand at Suzuki East London. We drove through from Hogsback yesterday, and we've handed the vehicle in this morning, and we've got to wait for the verdict. They've got to check the side shaft seal, check the wheel bearing, and make sure that they've got all the parts to do the job. So hopefully if they've got all the parts, they can get it done within a few hours, and we can be on our way. So the verdict from Suzuki East London is that they didn't have a side shaft seal. So, we can't afford to wait around in East London for 5 days while they order the seal. So they did say that I've hardly lost any oil out of the diff, so then it was quite safe to proceed. So we did call ahead to Suzuki Kokstad, but they also don't have the part as well. And then we called Suzuki Pietermaritzburg, which is kind of close to where we're going, and they can get the part there by Wednesday. Obviously they're much closer to Johannesburg, where the part's got to come from, so their delivery time's a lot shorter than way down here in the Eastern Cape. So our plan now is we've basically left East London and we're on our way up to Matatiele. We had the side shaft seal replaced at Suzuki Pietermaritzburg, but they discovered that the wheel bearing was in very bad shape. We had no choice but to let them repack the bearing and close up the shaft. This was something we would have to do at a later stage in the trip. Yeah, so any repair that you need to have done on the road, they've always got to order the part, and that's why, East London said they can't do it, they have to order the part, it's going to take 5 days. So we then proceeded to Pietermaritzburg, but East London actually said there's nothing wrong with your wheel bearings, they're solid, they're good, it's just your shaft seal, it has a tiny little drip of oil, which isn't even crazy. I mean, we did more than 1,000 kilometers and we didn't even lose 200 mils of diff oil. So actually the car is still drivable. So yesterday, after I instructed them to put everything back together again and we take our chances with a new shaft seal, guess what? The vehicle's perfect. There's not a drop of oil this morning.
Well, touch wood.
Yeah, we did over 200 kilometers yesterday and there's not a single drop of oil. That means the shaft seal actually sealed the shaft. The wheel bearing, once it's inside its entire hub and its casing, there's no play on the wheel bearing. But yet on the bench, the wheel bearing looked like it was going to fall apart. But that's not the case. So, in hindsight, we could have just kept driving. So we finally did manage to get the wheel bearing done at Suzuki 4Ways. I didn't want to take any more chances. We still have about 2,000 kilometers to go to drive back to Cape Town. And I thought, while we've got a day off in Sandton, let's get the Jimny's wheel bearing sorted so that we can drive home with peace of mind. So it should be ready now. It's just before 5 o'clock, before they close. It's been a whole day affair, but let's hold thumbs now that everything's going to go well and we'll be home in Cape Town in 3 days. Let's break down the situation. The issue was a leaking shaft seal and a worn wheel bearing. The vehicle was drivable, so there were no towing costs. The shaft seal was replaced at Suzuki Pietermaritzburg at a cost of 3,890 Rand, and we continued with the journey, eventually replacing the wheel bearing at Suzuki 4Ways at a cost of 4,250 Rand, giving us a total of 8,140 Rand. The lesson here is to always do a deep inspection before long trips. On our most recent expedition, filming Season 7 in the Northern Cape in Kalahari, we were hit by a massive storm as we travelled along the Namibian border en route to the Kalahari National Park. The storm was fierce and the road conditions deteriorated to slush. We were forced to put the vehicle into four-wheel drive to keep it on the road. We still had over 150 kilometers to go and the storm was showing no signs of abating. After Noniput, we eventually found a side road that would take us back to the R360 from Uppington to Askam. There were so many complete floodings across the road. So the only thing you can do is just guess, okay, which is going to be the shallower side, left or right, put it into low range and just slip and slide through and get out the other side. Then back into normal four-wheel drive and off we go. So yeah, I think my gearbox has taken strain of driving that long in four-wheel drive, but you had no choice. You've got to stay in four-wheel drive, otherwise, the vehicle's all over the road and just wants to slide off the road. So anyway, after the crazy storm situation, we continued with our journey into the Kalahari. We used four-wheel drive high and low repeatedly on the dunes with zero issues. We then still travelled into the Kalahari and further for another 350 kilometers to Van Zyls-Rus. It was in this town that I noticed the first loud knock coming from the drive shaft. I wasn't quite sure what the sound was, but we never heard it again until we left Kuruman. But this time it was a series of loud knocking noises coming from the drive shaft under the vehicle. We called Suzuki Uppington, but they were fully booked and we could not wait another week. We had no choice but to keep driving back towards Cape Town. On the open road, at cruising speeds, there were no noises coming from under the vehicle. We made it as far as Kenhardt on the R27. but after a fuel stop, when pulling away, the loud knocking was happening in first and second gear. It seemed it was either gearbox or transfer case related. We managed to continue a further 105 kilometers down the R27, but this time we heard the knocking continuously on acceleration. Finally, we pulled over on the R27 about 25 kilometers outside Brunfley. It was game over. I checked under the vehicle and there was an oil leak coming out of the transfer case. It was late afternoon, approximately 5 o'clock, and we had no cell phone signal. I've just looked on the GPS, it's 23.5 kilometers from Brunfley on the R27. Thank you. And that's why we have sat phones. Right, so as we stand on the R27, 25 kilometers before Brunfley, we did manage to get a tow service from Calvinia that's coming to fetch us. Yeah, it's 171 kilometers and the tow cost is 8,800 Rand. That's pretty similar to the tow that we had to pay in Etosha. That was 190 kilometers. We were blessed with a beautiful sunset, even though we were in an uncertain situation, but thanks to our sat phone, we knew help was on the way. The first tow service arrived after 8 p.m. and we eventually got into Calvinia after midnight. We spent 2 nights in the Calvinia hotel and the next morning the insanely expensive flatbed back to Stellenbosch arrived. Finally, after 6 days of waiting and towing, we could start the diagnosis. After the transfer case was opened, it was clear that it was a very stretched transfer case chain causing the loud noises as it slipped over the gears. The cause of this was from excessive heat from driving over 162 kilometers in four-wheel drive. It did last a total of 1,290 kilometers from when we were forced to engage four-wheel drive to where we broke down. And fortunately, none of the gears or the gearbox was damaged. Let's break down the situation. The issue was a stretched transfer case chain. The towing services were in 3 sections. The first towing was 8,800 Rand from the R27 to Calvinia. The second tow service was 16,580 Rand from Calvinia to Stellenbosch. And the third tow service was 1,580 Rand from Devon Valley to Suzuki Stellenbosch, with a total towing cost of 26,960 Rand. The cost of replacement for the transfer case chain was 20,548 Rand, including parts and labour, bringing it to a total cost of 47,508 Rand. To prevent issues like this, one should not drive excessively in four-wheel drive, but this may depend on your situation and of course the age of the vehicle. If you are forced to drive for long distances in four-wheel drive, take breaks every 20 or 30 kilometers and let the transfer case cool down. So yes, this is the inside of the new Jimny 5-door. I've got an opportunity to drive around in this a bit. I've rented one while our Jimny is being fixed, and yeah, I mean it's really amazing to be driving around in the new Jimnys, the Gen 4s, the 5-door. Lots of nice space in here. I could imagine us in one of these. This would really be amazing. So one's got to ask oneself the question, what is a great takeaway? What is a lesson that we learn from these overland breakdowns? Well, a lot of it's got to do with initial vehicle preparation and making sure that your vehicle is 100% up to standard before you go on a long trip. Anything that you could suspect might go wrong, have it done, have it fixed, have it changed, have it serviced, or whatever the case may be, because it's always a matter of practicing prevention, you know. Otherwise you find yourself in a situation where you go, damn, we should have just done this and we should have checked that, and that's the one aspect of it. The other aspect of it, which is what caught us out now in this final breakdown, was just really pushing the vehicle too much. You know, that's a little 1300 Jimny. It's loaded with 100 kilograms of weight on the roof, and another 200 kilograms inside, and you know, plus the weight of the vehicle. And I think that if we didn't have to do that 160 kilometers of extreme 4x4 mud, nothing would have happened. that exercise itself, we had no choice. I couldn't get out of there in two-wheel drive. I had to keep it in four-wheel drive. So what, you know, that definitely was the cause of the transfer case chain stretching, and eventually, you know, 2,000 kilometers later, the transfer case chain starts jumping, and that's what that massive noise was. Now, because all the liquids inside there get so insanely hot, and there's a massive amount of pressure on the drive chain with such a lot of weight, and driving in four-wheel drive under extreme strain for such a long distance. So that's one thing that maybe sometimes you can't avoid. Maybe you're doing a long trip right through Kalahari on the sand roads, and you're going to be in four-wheel drive for a very long time. It's probably a better idea to take it in short sort of 50-kilometer stretches, stop, rest, let everything cool down. I mean, we all know that the overlanding industry is a very expensive industry. It's an expensive outlay. There's lots of servicing and preparation that's also expensive, and upgrades and add-ons. And, you know, one's also got to think about the fact that you've also got maybe another 150 to 200 kilograms of add-ons as well. Your front bumper, your rear bumper, the extra tire, you know, roof tents, and 4 jerry cans on the roof that are full of fuel. It all adds up, you know. So that's what one's got to look at, is my vehicle going to cope with where I'm taking it in the condition it's in with everything that's on it right now. So no complaints. The Jimny's all driving fantastic. The gearbox seems perfect. I haven't tested it in four-wheel drive, but we've got some gravel roads close to where we live. I'll go and test it there. I don't want to test it on the tar. But yeah, alignment's perfect. Everything's sweet. Gearbox is shifting perfectly. I don't anticipate any problems. Still got some decent power from our De Graaf exhaust upgrade. Everything's running, everything's good. And it's fantastic to be back in our little Jimny Cricket. Okay, so I hope that this episode has given you guys quite a bit of insight as to what overlanding can really cost when things go wrong. You know, sometimes it's just a flat tire or it's an easy fix or whatever, but if you're really in a remote location and you need to be flatbedded or towed, you know, it's quite different if you're traveling in a convoy. You've got other vehicles that can help you, but when you're traveling alone, it's very, very important that that your vehicle is in a shape that it doesn't give you any hassles. I mean, some things you can't help, other things you can help. So as you see right now, Kirsten and I are driving again. It's the 9th of July and we've just left our farm in Stellenbosch, and we're now heading back out into the Northern Cape, right up near Uppington, between Uppington and Kuruman. So we're very excited. We're heading off right now into the Northern Cape again.
And it's such a beautiful day. We couldn't have hoped for nicer weather. In fact, they had forecast rain for today, but it doesn't look like that's going to happen. And of course, it's a lot colder than it was 2 months ago. So we are going to be self-catering this time around, just because it's more practical, and the idea of being in a tent is not very appealing in icy conditions. So we're looking forward to the fact that the trip is also not too long.
So thank you for watching. Please subscribe if you haven't, and like this video. And what's coming up right now is the full trailer for Season 7, the Northern Cape and the Green Kalahari. Enjoy, and we see you soon.